Ron Paul wrote a book, End the Fed. And I love Ron Paul, and that's a great book. But it wasn't feasible to just end the Fed. You also needed to invent Bitcoin because you needed to have an alternative that was a technologically, socially, incentive-aligned, better alternative that got enough people to its banner under many circumstances to actually fight and replace the existing system. And I think that is the big thing that the technologist worldview, the founder worldview has, that the conservative worldview usually doesn't, which is you actually have to somehow build the alternative and then replace the existing system. And for example, as hard as that is, even for a government agency, Elon built SpaceX and he's essentially replaced NASA, right? And so to your point, and then let me get to the strategy on it. One of the things I talked about in this lecture from 10 years ago is FDA, and they omit the, right? They don't call themselves the FDA, they call themselves FDA, right?
FDA.
Yeah.
FDA. It's actually one of these like obnoxious
ticks.
Even conceits and ticks. Yeah, it's just
it's
you're
funny.
Right about this. It just tells me the inside baseball of this, right?
Right, exactly. That's right. So FDA and SEC and FAA, they're set up for a very 20th century environment where, as you say, their whole conceit is they're protecting you from yourself. So FDA is set up to go and regulate Pfizer and Merck, and SEC is set up to regulate Goldman and Morgan, and FAA is set up to regulate Boeing and Airbus. But what FDA is not set up to do is to regulate a million biohackers all taking their own health into their own hands, right? And SEC is not set up to go after a million crypto holders who all want to take their own risks. And FAA is not set up to go after a million drone hobbyists, right? So those assertions of individual liberties, which the internet has enabled in all three of those cases, right, and others I could name, are what put the lie to the idea that the regulator is protecting you. They're just protecting you from your own benefit, right?
Yeah,
and
because they prove the existence of what an alternative looks like.
Exactly, that's right. And so we can see with the SEC is protecting you from getting wealthy. We will now soon see that the FDA is protecting you from getting healthy.
I actually like that framing quite a bit.